So I sort of wanted to take a different tact. I read a lot of the articles out there already, and if you don't know me, I'm retired military. I'm a retired Special Forces warrant officer, and I find it interesting with your military background. So the first question I had for you was, how did your attendance at West Point and your military service benefit you in developing and presenting the NA program?
Well, a couple things pop into my mind. Number one, West Point was a lot about values. You know, it was always about doing the right thing versus the easier thing.
Okay.
And so, obviously, a lot of those same values are integral to the work that we're doing today. We're a values company, leadership company, and I think that that's one of the challenges that America has today. I heard a pastor just the other day was downgrading capitalism. And to me, I don't know whether you want to include Christianity in this article because it's probably a wider sector, but that's if you want to drop Christianity out, there's nothing wrong with capitalism. Capitalism is a phenomenal venture as long as it's got values with it. And unfortunately what's happened today is we got the capitalism, but we don't have the values. And so when people are greed motivated and have capitalism, that's as bad as anything else with greed, you know, which you run into in communism, socialism, and everything else. They just find different ways of compensating people inappropriately. And so the values at West Point of service, contribution, duty on our country, integrity, they are all core kind of issues to what I see as the model of a human being. There's a background echo to this thing. I don't know whether that's just a recording or what. But, so that's the first piece, is the values. And then the second piece that I would say that connects is the experiential nature of all my West Point training. You know, they didn't just teach you, okay, this is why you put a gas mask on fast. They threw you in a tent full of tear gas, basically you cried, threw up, and the rest of it, and said, okay, well, we tell you to put one on fast.
Exactly. Definitely
you're going to die. So, you know, as you know, I haven't done our work. I'm an experiential nut. I think that that's what changes the heart of a human being.
Right, good. That sort of flows into another question I had, and you talked about values, and what I was going to ask you about was ethics, and in the military, servicemen and women are even graded on their ethics, and it seems like some of the things we've had happen recently with the financial crisis has been a breakdown of ethics. Maybe you can expand a little bit about values and how that translates into ethics and how that could help the corporate world.
Yeah, and by the way, the military is not exempt from ethics problems. You had, again, I apologize, I don't know how old you are, but you go back to the Vietnam War, and of course there was tremendous pressure put on for like body counts, and so numbers got inflated. To me, that's an ethics violation. You know, more recently you had who's the NFL football player that for the Arizona Cardinals that became a Ranger. Incredible values here. Here he gives up fame, fortune, whatever to be in service. And but then when he was killed by your own gunfire, instead of the military coming clean, they covered it up. Right. You know, they wanted to use it as a PR play, and so I think that every human being, there is pressure put on to not tell the truth. And in business, in sports, in the military, and so it's important to train people to stand up to that pressure and still tell the truth. Sure. And of course, if you look at the financial situation of this country, there's a lot of talk made about the greed of Wall Street CEOs, and I certainly agree with that. I think it's unconscionable, however you say that word, that somebody millions of dollars for a company that goes under, or that is losing money, and they still make millions. I mean, if the company's not profiting, there should be a correlation. Maybe if you turn the company around, and instead of losing $100 million, they lose only $5 million. Okay, the guy deserves a bonus, the gal deserves a bonus for that, but not when you're ruining shareholder value and blah blah blah. Right. But the point I wanted to make is it wasn't just the Wall Street CEOs. It's the ordinary person that got greedy and they wanted to get into a home just because their neighbor was making money and they were afraid of getting left behind, so they got into a home that they couldn't afford. Right. And it wasn't just the individual person getting into the home, it was the broker that sold them the home when they knew that they didn't have the qualifying income, but because you didn't have to pay it, they overlooked it. And then it was the brokerage industry making up loans that were ridiculous loans to begin with because they were greedy and they just wanted the commissions they would make off of it. So to me, there's a fundamental erosion of the definition of success to most people today is what I call accumulation, acquisition, or consumption. It's not about contribution. And of course, I'm exaggerating. There's plenty of places you can find where people are contribution-oriented, but for the most part, that's what people are being brainwashed to, is how much can I accumulate? Not what kind of a difference do I make? And that's why we're running into the problems that we're running into. And I think until that's straightened out, we'll continue to have problems.
Yeah, that's right. Just to be respectful of your time, just one more question.
You can go another 15 minutes if you want. I mean, it's up to you. Okay. I got my next call is at 11:30.
Okay, sure. When I was with Special Forces, one of our key concepts was hearts and minds. And the U.S. first talked about that back about the same time you were in Vietnam, maybe a little before that. But that's a phrase or a concept that we remember, but then we tend to forget. And right now with the conflicts going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, also with the global war on terror, what can K&A offer the military and the nation in regards to the concept of hearts and minds and being a international global member? I was looking through your book, Eating the Elephant One Bite at a Time, and there's lesson 37. I have it here somewhere. Lesson 37 has a very good lesson in it about accentuating the positive to eliminate the negative, but there's a story in it about some Americans out in a remote village, and it's a very good story that I think talks about the idea of respect and hearts and minds.
I pulled the book up as you were talking, so I missed the last part of what you were talking about there.
Lesson 37, and there's
I'm looking at it right now.
There's a story at the end of that really talks about hearts and minds and looking them in the face and letting them know just with your eyes that you know that there are men who are like you do and hope like you do. I thought that was something that equated pretty good with the hearts and minds concept.
All right. And you're free to use that story if you want to.
Okay.
When you talk hearts and minds, I like history, but I'm no historian, but when I look back, one insurgency that we won, or sort of won, was in the Philippines.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, we were building hospitals and doing everything else. I'm not so sure whether that can equate apples to apples with what's going on in Afghanistan and Iraq right now. Although I do know that I listened to a few months ago, I heard the head of counterterrorism for the United States, a 38-year-old colonel, spoke at the West Point, what they call the Founders Day. It's the first one I've been to in 30-some years. And it's a local meeting. I don't know why I went, but I went. And it was fascinating. And he was talking about the current general's philosophy really is about winning the hearts and minds of the people. So can K&A add to that with the people? I Guantanamo Bay and all the rest of it. But I think overall our military is pretty darn good at the hearts and minds. I think that we might be, so anyway, I'm kind of waffling here just because I think the military does a good job of that, and will can react to it, sure. I think we definitely need to think the bigger picture.
Okay.
And I think that, like, one of the huge ways that I see that we can gain impact within there, and I'll call it broader than the military, is there is so much turf warfare, so to speak, within FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, whatever. And I see that as a huge problem. I mean, it's a lot of times we're collecting data, but we don't take advantage of the data because one department doesn't have access to the other. And I think that, with all the exercises and games we do, that if we had the high enough people at that level doing our work, that I think that's a significant play or value add that K&A can make to the armed services.
That's right. I think. So if you have some more time, I do have a couple more questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. There's also talk about negligence in the news right now. British Petroleum here in Washington State, Washington Mutual. How does an organization establish a culture where mistakes are allowed, but the negligence does not occur?
Yeah, that's a great one. I work on within K&A what I call high accountability with low judgment.
Okay.
What seems to happen in organizations is you either go high accountability and high judgment, or no judgment but no accountability.
Okay.
And so, and of course, allowing people to fail is always, in my mind, and hey, I'm just speaking what little I know running, our company. If you have a safety net on the things, you can take chances. It's like in a circus.
Yeah.
If you've got a safety net, then you can take chances. If you don't have a safety net, you can't take as many chances. So, for example, the bigger cash reserves that I can build up with K&A, the bigger financial risk I can take because I've got a safety net to be able to fall back on. If I have no reserves at all, then I couldn't take any chances at all because one little error and you put the whole thing out of whack. Now, safety systems are not just financial, they're with people. One of the things I've had to work in again within our own company is people get confused what authority is with responsibility.
Okay.
Responsibility is owning the whole outcome out of your own choices. It cannot be delegated. It's merely a viewpoint. Authority is something that's delegated. So, for example, I can delegate to, say, Billy Johnson here, okay, you got authority to make a $500 decision without talking to anybody. You don't have the ability to make a $5,000 decision without talking to your boss. At the management level, it would be a different game. It would be, okay, Kimberly Zink, you can make a $5,000 decision on your own, but if you can't make a $50,000 decision on your own, that kind of that's authority.
Okay.
On the other hand, the more you can get them into responsibility without the fault blame, hey, they'll make mistakes, but now they're also looking for all the choices to course correct that. And you're backed up because you have other people. I've had difficulty and still working out with some people in our organization where they confuse the authority and the responsibility, and they think if I'm responsible, then I also have equal authority, which is not always the case. To me, you get a responsibility before you get the authority. Does that help at all? I feel like a little bit like I'm